cases to serial killers, missing persons, and more.
100% he did this.
I'd go off in the fantasy world.
How much more lucky can you get that you're not on death row?
You want to know what we know.
My name is Jay. This is Guilty of Crime.
All right, folks, I'm here early because I want to get some things out today. Jay, Guilty of Crime. We're doing an exclusive interview with Bre Micciolo. She prefers Bre, so we're going to call her Bre Micciolo. And I'm coming on early because I have a few things to show you before she comes on. And I also want to get this straight with my crime crew and all my lovely people here. Trolls and negative comments will not be tolerated today. It has come to my attention already that there's been some comments in there that I will not tolerate. You will be kicked off the channel for the day. So please, we're going to have Bre on here to tell her story. And it's justice for Corey. She's going to tell the entire story. Trigger warning, because there are a lot of things that are really hard to take in. I'm going to play a clip here in a minute. It was 3 months before Bre Micciolo's life was brutally taken. And I'm playing it now before she comes on. So if you missed this because I came on early, you'll have to go back. We'll timestamp. You can watch it. So let me put the title up. All right. So it's Bre Micciolo, the full story by Bre Micciolo. All right. I want to make sure that all of my content is respectful and all of this content came from her. So first before I play the audio, what I'll do is I'll share this picture, and it's a picture that she gave to me and she wanted me to share because, well, it's Corey and his dad. I want you to see that. This is a picture of Corey and his dad, folks. So today, again, I'm going to say hi to everybody before. I don't want to be rude during the interview and be talking and whatnot. She'll take questions if she wants to after. So hello, Kirsten. Hello, Gigi. Hello, Ingrid from California. Hey, Brown Eyes. Hello to everybody. There's 152 people in chat. We're here early. Hello, Princess Mitch. Today, the whole trial doesn't even begin to tell you what happened, okay? So we're going to tell the real story. Bre's not telling you a story. She's telling you the truth of what happened, things that didn't make it into court. I want you to see this picture. I'm going to zoom in as much as I can. Take a look at this little guy, beautiful Corey. This was his visitation that he had with his dad. It was a visitation, but it was supervised. And Corey was very uncomfortable with it. You see this monster, Christopher Greger? And you see this beautiful little boy? This is one of the supervised visits. So I'm showing you this before she comes on so that she doesn't get upset. Okay. She sent this to me, but yeah, we're doing this for Corey. No, I'm not saying we can't ask Bre questions, but she's not allowed. She's not going to answer questions while she's talking. So if she decides to answer questions at the end, then we'll ask at the end. So if you want to save your questions for when I say, Bre, do you want to ask or do you want to answer questions? Then we'll give it the go. All right. So we got a lot to get to, and I want to make sure everybody is respectful. That's why I came early. I also want you to hear this audio 3 months before his life was brutally taken from Corey. His life was taken, and his mom had an audio of him saying that his dad was abusing him, and it wasn't allowed in court, folks. It wasn't allowed in court. This picture was taken in 2018 when Chris and Corey were together, and it was supervised visits. Okay. So thank you for asking me questions. Now I could answer now. 2018. Thank you. All right. I'm going to play something hard for you guys to listen to, but listen close, because I'm not going to play this again when she's on the show. I might play it twice now, but I'm not going to play it again because she doesn't want to hear this again. We're not here to exploit or re-victimize victims. And even though she's not the victim, Corey is. She's his mother, and she loved that little boy. So let's listen to this audio of. All right, let's see. Video. Is it a video file? No, let me find it. I'm trying to figure out how to share this. How do I share the screen? Huh. How do I play this audio off of here? I have it downloaded, Bre. And this is to my moderator. So I'm trying to play this audio, and I'm having trouble figuring out how to play the audio. All right, let's go here. Let's download it. Let's try it from this way. I'm not sure why I'm not able to play the audio the way I want it to. No. Huh. Well, this audio is terrible. I might have to play it in a separate it's from a media player, and it's not letting me play it. It's not letting me show it, or it's not giving me an option to. It says video file, and then let me see if it'll let me play it this way. All right. Here we go. Listen up, folks. I have it now.
Just tell him what.
My dad thinks I should go in my room. He just chokes me out of nowhere and bent my head all the way to my back. Chokes me a lot.
What do you mean? What you keep saying that he puts your head to your back? What does that mean?
That means your neck goes like.
So he pulls your head?
Yeah.
Or he chokes you?
He just pulls my head.
Oh, he pulls your hair back and then all the way to your back. Oh my God, Corey. That's it? How?
It chokes me.
How long?
I'm tapped a lot and I can't breathe. My throat right here.
All right. That was Corey 3 months before he passed away. He was saying it. I don't know what else has to be said, folks. All right, let's see if I can. Yeah, I had trouble even getting it to play in the first place. Let me see if I can. If you guys missed it or not, that was very despicable. That baby was articulating to his mom, and she could do nothing. Yeah, I'll do a clip of it later, and I'll put it out there. You guys we'll timestamp it for you. I'm gonna remove this. I don't want any chance of Bre even having to hear this again. Okay, I'm very sensitive to her. This was 3 months before he passed away, Kremlin. 3 months. We know when he passed away already. So it was 3 months before he passed away. We're not running the timeline again. She's going to, Bre Micciolo is going to run the timeline from 2014 to 2021. And she's going to tell her story about what happened, how she met him, and how Corey was conceived. I'm going to let her. It's not my story to tell, okay? That was not allowed in court. We don't know why. All right, now I have something else for you guys to listen to. I need to show you this. It's important. It's Brianna Micciolo's dad. He went on News Nation. Bre Micciolo didn't want to go on News Nation because they were only going to give her a 5-minute clip. Here's the 5-minute clip that they gave her dad instead. Let's listen to this, and then by then she should be on.
Vito, I'm so sorry for everything that your family has been through. This has just been heart-wrenching for all of us to follow along with during the trial, and we've all thought about Corey so much. What was your reaction to the verdict, Vito?
It was bittersweet. I thought he should have got the murder charge, but I'll take that charge. Again, it was bittersweet. It's tough because at the end of the day, there's still my grandson's gone, and we can't bring him back. And this guy here is just a beautiful kid. This guy's a monster, and we fought it. We fought like my daughter said, DCP&P for years, and they didn't want to believe us. No matter what we did and said, they didn't want to believe us up to the end, where I felt that.
And you heard that. No matter what they did and said, she had that recording. Bre had that recording of little Corey talking about the abuse. There was bruises. There was 100 times her calling DCP&P, and this still happened. There's no excuse for this.
The system, when my daughter took him to the hospital and had him checked out, and he finally admitted because he was afraid to say anything to anybody because he knew the repercussions or what would happen to him. He, you know, they should have never phoned him and told him that they know. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I know. I think one of the things that's upset us all the most, Vito, is the state doing nothing. I mean, the fact that there were 100 calls, allegations of abuse, that he wasn't taken away, that little Corey was in this situation. Do you think that they should be held criminally, accountable for this in terms of some of these social workers and everyone who dropped the ball?
Absolutely. I mean, I could tell you story after story after story. We called. We said, this is what happened. This is what Corey told us. These are the marks on his body, and it seemed like they wanted to believe the father and son, the father who was some bigwig in the state troopers in New Jersey and had some political power, versus the little people who our voice didn't matter, no matter what we said.
Yeah, you're talking about Corey's other grandfather, right? There's been this talk that he was high up with the state patrol and that you guys were just ignored through all of this, and that this could have been prevented. I'm assuming you knew Christopher. I mean,
Yeah, this is Bre Micciolo's dad, and absolutely nothing will be tolerated if you talk bad about Bre on this show. You will be kicked out for the rest of the show. Bre did everything she absolutely could, and you're going to hear the full story of how Corey was conceived from start to finish, and then you tell me what you're trying to tell me. Whoever's saying anything bad, you tell me what you would do.
I've watched him every day in that trial, and it makes you mad to see him sitting there. I mean, what was he like? What was your impression of him?
He was an angry person. I mean, a very angry person. I mean, one of the run-ins I had was up in North Jersey at the courthouse, which was a custody hearing. And I had gotten there. I told my daughter I would be there for that hearing. And I went into the restroom, and I'm washing my hands, and this guy came out of the stall, and it was Chris in a suit. And I said, "Hey, Chris, you remember me? I haven't seen him in a while." Corey's grandfather. And all of a sudden, white trash, you're this, you're that, all kinds of negative, bad things. I'm like, all right, whatever, no big deal. And he kept screaming at me. So I'm going to walk out the door. The door pulled in to walk out. As I'm going through, he grabbed the door and tried to slam it on me as I'm walking through. And it started getting louder, and being a man, I'm like, all right, just.
You hear what an awful human being this guy is? I wish he would have got the murder charge, but we hope that he's held accountable to the fullest. And we'll ask Bre about her reaction of that. She told me yesterday. I'll let her talk about it herself.
Enough's enough. Brianna and heard it in the hallway, and other people. Then she come running down and kind of broke it up. But it's just to show his anger. And then when we were leaving the courtroom,
Monster.
he followed us out. We got in our cars. I met with my daughter. We were going to grab something to eat. He was walking around, crossing the street, and walked right to the side of the car. It just started going off. I'm the one that popped your daughter's tire, your wife's tires. My ex-wife at the time, ex-wife now, popped her tires. I did this, I did that, admitting to everything. And it was like he was a Jekyll and Hyde type guy. You know what I mean? I'm a guy. I went to school. I got my master's degree. I'm white collar, wear a tie. But when nobody's looking, he's a very evil person. Very evil.
Well, and he probably didn't know, Vito, that camera was.
Absolutely, that's what it is. He didn't know the camera was there, and he was an evil monster. He's still an evil monster. You heard how he behaved in court. You saw his face the entire time. He didn't take accountability, and he was abusing that little boy right under everybody's nose, so to speak. But they knew, and it still didn't help.
Up there in that gym. I mean, all you have to do is watch that surveillance video and see what he did to that little boy. And the rest, I think, is crystal clear. And he probably didn't know the camera was there. I'm sure that video was very important in the end to the jury's decision. Vito, we really appreciate you coming on. Our heart goes out to you and your family. And I hope you guys get justice when it comes to, the breakdown with the state, because I think that's the next step here.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com.
All right. So that's the only amount of time that they wanted to give. And so I wanted to make sure that Bre has the opportunity to speak about her truth, tell you what happened. She was in court. As a matter of fact, it's funny. And I just told her this morning, I woke up to my phone playing her being in court. It was pretty funny. I was watching, true crime all night. And when I woke up this morning, I saw her on the stand. So she knows the real deal. She knows what went on behind the scenes. She knows the things that didn't make it into court. She knows the things that made it into court and were misconstrued. She knows all of it. She knows the entire story. We've all been speculating up until now. No more speculation, people. Let me see if I can play this one more time before she comes on. Listen up.
Just tell him what.
My dad thinks I should go in my room. He just chokes me out of nowhere and bent my head all the way to my back. Chokes me a lot.
What do you mean? What you keep saying that he puts your head to your back? What does that mean?
That means your neck goes like.
So he pulls your head?
Yeah.
Or he chokes you?
He just pulls my head.
Oh, he pulls your hair back and then all the way to your back. Oh my God, Corey. That's it? How?
It chokes me.
How long?
I'm tapped a lot.
All right, we're gonna stop that. Bre is here behind the stage. We're not gonna do that anymore. We're gonna put both of us on, and we're now gonna add Bre. We have Rebecca, lovely Rebecca Micciolo. Is it Micciolo too, right? Rebecca Micciolo.
Yes. Yep.
We've seen you in chat the whole time, and everybody's been fangirling, so to speak. Rebecca's in chat. Rebecca's in chat. So I know it's not that type of situation. It's a very sad situation, but the crime crew and all of us and myself are here for you today to lend my platform. And so I want to introduce everybody. This is Bre and Rebecca Micciolo. And the first thing I want to let you all know before we get into everything is that Bre has been clean and sober since February 2021. And then I'll let her take it from there. She's going to clear up all the things and tell her story, but she's very brave to tell it. She's been clean. All the misconceptions that you've heard in court and all the things going around, very untrue. And getting clean is hard to do. I know.
Oh, yeah.
All right. All right, Bre, you're on. You tell your story from 2014, when it happened and what you want to go for.
Yeah. So I wanted to start with, in court, like everyone was only able to hear like what happened from like March 20th to April 2nd. So people just think Chris did this from this time to that, but he's been doing this. He was abusive from the beginning, 2019. Where should I start my story? 2014. I don't do this often, so sorry if I'm,
I think yesterday we talked about it and you started how you met Chris. That would probably be the best place to start because that's where it all started, right?
Right.
The day you met him and what the heck he did. He's an evil man, by the way, which you already know.
Yeah. So I won't forget the day. I never will. It was July 31st, 2014. Or 13, I'm sorry, 2013. And me and my friend, we were home, and my parents, like no one was home. They were on a vacation somewhere. And me and my friend were like, oh, we want to have people over. And she said she knew somebody and he could get us alcohol. And, he's 21. So she invited him over with a few friends. And there was a few people there. And Chris knew my age because I went to school with his brother, who was actually.
And you were 16? Just clear this up. You were 16. He was 21.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. That's all. I missed that part.
Yeah. Okay. So, he knew how old I was because I went to school with his brother, who was a year older. So he was 17. And so they came over and he brought a bunch of alcohol. We were drinking and I could tell, he was interested in me, but I wasn't. So he just kept like kind of feeding me drinks. And then at one point he gave me a water bottle and it was like orange juice. And I thought it was like vodka because, orange juice, vodka. I later found out it wasn't. I was told it was Molly. I don't know 100% what was in it. But after that, everything, I kind of just like blacked out. I don't remember much. And the reason I know that, he did anything to me was because the next day he texted me like, hey, babe. And I'm like, why would he be, that's weird. And then like we had this conversation. He was telling me like we had sex. I was like, I wouldn't have done that. I was not interested in you, and I was incapacitated. There's no way. I don't remember anything.
Right.
So that's how that started.
That was already against the law from the beginning for him to be that age. He could have already went to jail for that. And then, yeah, it could have been Molly, or it could have been any of those, the date drugs that they call date rape drug. We're no filter here today. The date rape drugs that where you pass out. Because if you don't remember anything, I mean, I'm on national stage. Yes, y'all, you see my tattoos. I've done Molly before, okay?
Yeah.
And Molly doesn't make you black out. And so it could have been GHB or one of those. GHB makes more sense. I've been in the tattoo world for 25 years. I've seen it all, folks. So GHB sounds like something he did. He mixed with alcohol, and she didn't even know. And then he's one of the narcissistic people that, hey, babe, how's it going? Yeah, it was great sex. Don't you remember? Want a date now? Right. So,
and that's exactly how it went. After that, still knowing that I'm a 16-year-old, I was in 10th grade, probably around that time.
Unbelievable.
And he's in college. I don't know, what year, but
yeah.
And he wanted to date me. He was obsessing and texting me and trying to come to my house, and I wasn't interested, and I think that he's a narcissist. He thinks he's above everybody, and he's this hot shit. And he was like, oh, wow, why wouldn't she want me? Look at me. Like, that's the type of person he is. And I think that's where, his hatred for me started, because I rejected him.
You did reject him. And also, I think he was a little scared since he did have sex without you wanting to do that.
Yeah.
He had sex with you, and he was like, oh, I could take advantage of this young girl. And if she dates me, she's not going to say anything. But then he came out, and you are very pretty, just
Thank
saying
you.
You're a very pretty woman. And of course he would want to date you, but he's a monster. He probably drove a nice car, was in college, and could get anyone he wanted. And he wanted you because you can control someone that's 16, but you had a boyfriend, correct? You had a boyfriend. You weren't interested in him. Correct. And you wouldn't have had sex with him that night willingly. You don't even remember it,
Absolutely
right?
Not. No.
Okay. And that was the night Corey was conceived, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, everybody. Now you know. Now you've heard it. Okay. You can.
Okay. So after that, I found out I was pregnant about a few weeks later. I didn't tell him right away because I didn't want him involved because of the person he was. He was truly disgusting, so I didn't tell him, but he found out I was probably around like 8 months pregnant. And, we live in the same town. His brother knows people I know. So it got to him that I was pregnant. So I told him, yes, I'm pregnant. Yes, it's your kid, and he just went off, and I can't afford a kid. I don't want a kid. Why didn't you get an abortion? So,
of course you would say that.
Right.
And it was already too late. It was too late by then, but you had decided, but you already wanted to have a baby. I mean, a lot of women do want children and they don't want abortion. So I commend you for that. And it looks like your mom's your good support system.
Oh yeah. So I went to her and I told her I was pregnant. I didn't tell her who it was by,
right.
Because she didn't know who Chris was anyway. And, we like made a decision that they would help me raise Corey. And, I wanted Corey. I always did,
Yeah, he's a beautiful little boy. He still is. He's a little angel. I can't. It's hard to refer to him in the past tense. I know he's not here, but he was absolutely beautiful, and I see it in your daughter as well. Yeah. I'm sorry for your loss, and there's nothing more I can say except I'm sorry for your loss. I listened to everything I could in the trial, and I know they cut a lot out. So you can, if you want to continue from there, how he was conceived, and then you didn't have him in his life for a long time, and then what happened? I mean, or tell us whatever you want.
Yeah. So I had Corey May 1st, 2014. I remember getting a text from Chris, and he said he wanted a picture of Corey. So I did send him one, and he was like, oh my God, he looks like me or something. And
Of course.
he ended up coming over, right?
He came to the house the night you were discharged from the hospital after giving birth.
Oh, wow.
So no, in the trial, it seems like, you know, I was just like money hungry and I wanted his money. So I went after him for child support or something. And he had no idea he had a child. And, you know, I laid it on him when he was 4 or 5 years old. That's the opposite of the truth.
Thank you. It did sound like that. And I had people saying that to me, and I wanted to clear that up, that that's not true at all.
Yeah. No, he knew when
So
I was
he came
pregnant.
over.
He saw him
Okay.
when he was born. And then there was a few times like he came by, but it wasn't to see Corey. He was obsessed with me so much that can I see him? But it was to come see me. He didn't interact with Corey.
No, he ignored him.
Yeah.
And, I just want to
I told
butt
him
in for a minute. I
go ahead.
actually did meet Chris the summer that Corey was conceived, because he came creeping back to the house with kid with the curls, the friend of his. And me being typical me, I went outside because I didn't know who this guy was in my backyard with my daughter and her friends. And I introduced myself. I don't remember what he told me his name was, but when I said, "Where are you from?" he told me South Brunswick, which was a lie.
And he lied about his age.
He was from Monroe. He told me he was 18. And so I take that as all the way back then, he was already making his, I don't know.
He's a predator. He always has been.
He was already, he was lying and making excuses and just not a nice person. So
and he wanted what he wanted. Yeah, he wanted what he wanted. He came over. He knew you to say, get off my property. If you knew he was a 21-year-old man that had actually, the true word is, had sex without her consent, and then Corey was conceived. She didn't want to be with him. He shouldn't even have came on your property. She wanted nothing to do with him. But then I'm glad you cleared up that he did see Corey when you were discharged, which was 20? You didn't have a C-section, did you?
No, it was natural. So it was like 24 hours.
Yeah, maybe
24. Yeah. Okay, so he came over the next day, saw the baby, more interested in you.
Oh yeah, didn't even acknowledge him.
Actually, we took the baby upstairs to our room while he was there, because when I went downstairs and saw this guy sitting on the couch, I think I said to Brianna, "What the hell's he doing here?" And she told me he was doing her math homework for her. Okay. Because I just didn't understand. And I mean, a lot of her friends came over to see the baby. So I thought, okay, still not knowing what had happened. But he had no interest in looking at Corey, because we took Corey up to our room. So he wasn't there for Corey.
Yeah. And we could see the disdain in his eyes in different pictures and different circumstances. I mean, that treadmill video, luckily, luck got that on camera, right? But I'm sure there was many other times.
Oh yeah, and I definitely want to talk about that, because
please,
a lot of people don't realize that video was obtained by CPS, like you call them, or DCPMP in New Jersey. They obtained that video and watched that video a week before Corey passed. And I don't know what their reasoning behind not removing Corey from his care was, but we all saw the video, and that would be plenty for anybody, you would think, to be like that he's abusing him. So
yeah, I mean, when that came out to the world, what do you mean? The whole world was like, wait, what? People couldn't even watch that. And I mean, I couldn't imagine a judge or anybody that's making a decision watch that video, and then they could have put him in a foster home if they didn't want to give him anything.
That's what I have always said. If they really thought I was such a bad person, which I wasn't, and they just felt like, and I was teen at this time, so I'm like, it didn't make sense. But even give him to you,
give him,
anybody, but
anything but
the
him.
Monster.
And that wasn't the first treadmill incident. He had abused Corey on the treadmill prior. So Bree's going to get to that. But
go ahead.
Yeah. So he came around a few times, very, just to be around me, I think. And then I think it was around 2018 when was it 2018 when I went and filed for, cash assistance and food stamps. And at that point is when they asked me like, what's their father's name, Corey's father's name. So I gave them Christopher's name, not thinking they were gonna start a big court case and sue him for child support and any money that, you know, they gave me in food stamps or whatever. That's essentially what they did.
Right. That's what they do in California too, by the way. And, you know, some people will say they don't know, but you don't think about that, especially when the guy had been coming around. It's not like he was just absent. So yeah, just tell him the name. No.
Yeah, and I was
hear
young.
you.
I mean, I was like very young, 20, 21 when, like maybe 20. So I didn't know any better. I didn't know how, you know, they went and got child support.
I think you did exactly what you should have done. In hindsight now, you would have said, I don't know who it was. If you could take it all back, I'm sure. But we can't predict the future. And that's what you did, exactly all the things you were supposed to do, and they didn't. Can I ask you real quick, in between the time that you had Corey and then filed for, you know, assistance, how many times had Corey come back around? Not Corey, Chris come back around?
2 or 3 times?
A couple of times. We had moved to Florida, and I guess Chris was going to school in Florida, probably about 2 hours, 3 hours away from where we lived. And I was still working in New Jersey. So my husband called me one night and he said, you know, that big kid's here, you know, the one. And he's like, what the hell is he doing here? I said, I don't know, ask him. I'm up here, you're down there, you know? And I found out from my younger daughter that Chris had come there and took Brianna. I think Nicole went also. They went to Walgreens to get paternity tests because Chris thought you could go to Walgreens, get this paternity test, swab your mouth, and wait for the results like a pregnancy test. And he thought that's what he was going to do. And when he realized you couldn't do that, then he, you know.
So he didn't want to pay the money to get a paternity test at that point. He didn't have money. You know, he had his parents' money, but he didn't realize that you swabbed and then sent it out to the lab, and that's an extra $100. So when he realized it was that much, he's like, oh, I'm not doing that. And that was 2015, probably.
Yeah. And he came another time when I was there. Remember, we all went out to lunch or dinner.
Yeah.
And Brianna was trying to get the stroller out of the back of the car. And he didn't even try to help. He just stood there. And then he was flirting with the waitress in the restaurant that we went to. He was just disgusting.
Yeah. So I would say like a total of like 2 or 3, maybe 4 times. It was like it wasn't a lot.
Right.
But it clears up. It clears that all up, that you just dumped some kid on him and you're money hungry. Now I'm going to let you talk. Go for it. It's all you.
Yeah.
People are like, let her talk. And I'm like, I'm letting her talk, but I'm helping her through the timeline, folks. So if you don't want to be on here, don't.
Yeah.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Go for it.
So I filed for, you know, the food stamps, or I applied, whatever. And that's when he had to go to court and get a paternity test. And he ignored the request for like a really long time. But then eventually the judge is like, we're going to put a warrant out if you don't take this test. So eventually he did. And then that's when he started to having to pay child support. And that took forever. And then the judge had to start taking it from his paychecks to actually, you know, get the child support. He wasn't willingly paying.
Right.
And then once that started happening, I think that's when he went and told mommy and daddy that I have a baby. You know, that's why they didn't know. But Chris knew since day one, you know.
Well, I mean, I think the paperwork from the court had gone to their house and they asked Chris about it, and he lied and said, oh, it's just some girl, you know, whatever. It's not me. It wasn't mine. Not mine.
Right. Of course. Narcissistic.
Yeah.
All right. So now we start from the time where
so it took a while for him to start actually wanting to see Corey, aka David Greger wanting him to see Corey. So his first visit was probably like 2019.
I think it was.
Yeah, like his actual first court order visitation was in like 2019. And I think it was the second visit. The first thing happened. I think the first one was like, okay, like it was kind of weird because Corey came home and like told us they gave him a bath and they cleaned him. and they cleaned under his fingernails. And I'm like, I thought it was strange that these people that don't know him, he's 5 years old, they put him in a bathtub, they made him get naked in front of him. Like, that's weird. That's uncomfortable for a 5-year-old. So I thought that was weird. That's the first thing that strikes me as like, there's something wrong with these people.
Prior to that first court-ordered visit, Chris came to Corey's school when we lived in Lake Apacong and picked him up he wanted to take him out, and I wouldn't let him by himself. And the only reason we allowed him to do it was because he had his girlfriend with him and she had a child, but the child wasn't with them. So he saw Corey once in June of 19 before court-ordered visits started. And then I explained to him, because he wouldn't talk to Brianna.
I wouldn't talk to him,
and
at that
she didn't
point.
want to. So I was the person that did. So I said, Chris, if you're doing this, and this again is not,
and she doesn't know what's happened.
I didn't know he
him.
raped her.
Yeah.
No, am I allowed to say that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you say whatever you want. Yeah.
I didn't know what happened, So
Right.
here I'm trying to be the good person and think, well, gosh, Corey can have another set of grandparents. He can, Corey wanted a dad. What kid doesn't? Kids would get picked up by their dad from school or daycare. Corey wanted to know where his dad was, So I thought, well, let's see if this can work. So anyway, he came that time in June, and I said, if you're going to do this, you're going to be consistent. You're not coming and then we don't see you again. Oh, no, I'm going to make it right. What I said, okay. And so then.
And this is the point where, his lawyer talks about how he came from Maryland to save the day because he wanted to be a father. This is like the point we're at when he came from Maryland back to New Jersey.
Yeah, but he didn't come here because he wanted to be a father to Corey. He had nowhere else to go because he was terminated from his teaching job. But
that too.
You can talk about that if you want, but
yeah, there's a lot. So the second visit he had with Corey, he dropped Corey off. It was dark out, and I got inside with Corey, and he had like blood on his shirt. And I'm saying, what happened, Corey? And then I looked at his lip, and it was swollen, and he had like a little cut. He was very like afraid. He didn't want to talk about it. We had to take him to the police station, and he still wouldn't admit to anything. But the police did call CPS. They made their own call, and then Corey got home, and he actually went to my sister and told my sister that Chris smacked him or hit him in his mouth because he cursed. So,
and this was time number 2, visit number 2.
Time. Yeah.
Jesus.
And I have pictures of it, and DCP&P, they come and they investigate, and they're like, well, we went to Chris, we talked to him and his father, David. And, David told us that he saw him accidentally kick him in the face when he went to kick a soccer ball. Corey's face was in the way. So, that makes sense, right? Like, and they were fine with that answer. And I didn't believe that. I never did. And then the next time was probably like a month and a half later. This is the first incident with the treadmill. So this is in 2020 or 2019 still. I think it was October 2019.
Yeah, maybe.
And I picked Corey up from school, and I think he slept over Chris's that night, and I picked him up, and Chris dropped him off at school, and then I picked him up from school. And I see Corey has this big, like right here, it's huge, like just scrape or like abrasion, I guess. And
right.
He also, it looked like he had like a handprint mark on his face. And then he had, it was all down his like side. And I'm like, Corey, what happened? Like, what happened now? And he was like, oh, my dad made me run on the treadmill because I'm too fat. I'm like,
that's where that came from. Okay.
That's not okay. You can't put he was 5 at this time. Yeah. So it started when he was 5. You can't put a 5-year-old on a treadmill. He's never been on one. He doesn't know how to use it. And, so I called DCP&P again. I tell them what happened. And then Corey admits to it, and Chris also admits to it. Yeah, I put him on the treadmill. He is fat. She feeds him too much McDonald's.
Oh, okay.
And they told me, they said, we told him he can't put him on the treadmill anymore. That's not okay. And that was
Oh,
it.
yeah.
That was it. Like, just, oh, please don't put him on again. Don't do that.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, he's going to listen.
Before we move further, can you just tell me why he got fired from being a teacher? Just real quick. I don't want to distract you, but
I believe he had a marijuana mail order business and got caught.
Okay.
Is that really?
That's
I don't know.
That's a fact.
Okay. Somebody had asked, and we were upset. People were upset that he was even a teacher or a crisis hotline counselor, and he's abusing your son and doing that and being a teacher to other people.
Teaching children. Yeah.
And teaching children.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
It's disgusting.
So every time so far, it seems like he's visited, there's been abuse.
Yeah. And I think, you know, DCP&P goes and visits his house, and like they live in a mansion, $1 million home. His dad's a cop or a retired cop, and you know his mom just walks around and just listens to everybody. She doesn't have a mind of her own, so she just goes with what everyone else says. So they don't suspect anything, especially when this retired state trooper is saying, yeah, no, he just kicked him by accident. No, you know, it's nothing. So that's who we were up against. And I don't live in $1 million home. So it's whatever. It's like they judge you.
I do, but it doesn't look like that in San Jose. $1 million, 1.4 million.
Everything's expensive. So yeah.
Yeah. 1.4 million is a shack over here. So when you say that, I'm like, I wonder what it looked like. Anyway, I know what you mean though.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, good old boys clubs happening, it sounds like here.
Yeah. I mean, they hear, oh yeah, I'm a retired cop in a big house, and they think like, yeah, nothing weird's happening here.
And everybody in that house, excuse me, had master's degrees in one thing or another. So of course, nothing could be happening there. You know, they're good people.
So I just want to say something, because I've been waiting to say this for 3 years, because I haven't been allowed to talk about this because, you know, the trial and everything. But Chris's personality consists of, I have a master's degree. My dad's a retired state trooper, and I was a teacher. Like, that is his personality. And that's all that came out during the trial, was like, oh, well, he's smart. He has a master's. His dad's a cop, you know, he's not guilty. Like, they really they act like that's their personalities. It's crazy, you know?
Yeah. Those top 3 things, right? That's their personality. It's who they are. It's how they love. And I did want to ask you one thing. What do you think? What is your response to the sentence, to the verdict? He hasn't been sentenced yet. Yeah, I just want you to make sense of it on the verdict. We know he didn't get the murder charge, and you told me why. So if you could just tell me what you thought about the verdict.
Yeah. So for first-degree murder in New Jersey, it has to be, you know, he did it with intent and knowingly. Like he went in and said, like, I'm going to do this, you know, to Corey today. And the aggravated manslaughter, he just did. I don't know what the exact definition is, but it's like he kind of like accidentally almost killed him.
Right.
So I think I agree with that. Because like, I wish he could get life. I want him to get life. I want him to get as long as possible. And I think he's the most vile human being. But at the end of the day, I truly don't think he meant to kill him. I think he was doing what he normally did. He was abusing Corey, and he was just more mad than he has been, because it was all coming out. It was about to come out that he was abusive. So he couldn't control his anger.
Right. Okay, well, thank you for that. Sentencing, I believe, is August 2nd at 1:30, so we'll cover that. And I think he's going to get the max. Personally, I don't think that judge took too kindly to that. So we're praying that he's going to get the max. There's 30 and 20 on one.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I'm going to be writing, you know, a statement and asking for the max. And there's a few others that have had issues with him, ex-girlfriends that he abused, that are also going to write in and ask for the max, because he's not going to get out. I mean, in 40 years, how old?
He's 32 now. So.
You know, if he gets out when he's 50, 20 years, whatever, like, he's going to hurt and kill someone else. I can 100% sit here and say he will.
Corey wasn't the first child he abused, and I won't name that child or the mother because I don't think it's fair for me to put that out
Right.
there.
Of
But
course.
Chris had an open DCP&P case when he came into Corey's life and got the visitation and stuff, because I call it an interview, but I was asked to go over to the Gregor's house in July of 19 prior to them meeting Corey. They didn't want to see Brianna, but they invited me. And, so I put a bunch of pictures together. I thought they'd want to see, pictures of Corey from birth to, current. And, when I got there, it was basically an interview. David Gregor did all the talking. If Chris's mother spoke, he put his hand up to her, like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Didn't allow her to really interact with me. And one question always stuck out in my mind, and I never could understand why he asked me this question. But David Gregor said to me, do you guys have any DCP&P involvement? And I looked at him and I said, well, no, I didn't understand the question really, why he would ask me that. But we found out later that Chris had an open case for abusing this other child that lived in the Gregor home. And that girl had to pack up and leave to make that go away.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So,
and you didn't know that.
If he gets out, he will do it again.
God forbid he has another kid. Oh my, I couldn't even imagine.
Well, let's say he gets 50. Let's say he even gets 35 years, God forbid, because there's 30 on one and 20 on another. If he gets max, it's 50. Let's say it's even cut in half of that, 25, 30. He's still going to be 57 to 60 years old. So if he gets a max at 50, he'll be out when he's around 80, 75, 80 years old. So that's what we're praying for. And that's what we hope the judge reviews everything and is able to see that, because we know the jury wasn't able to see everything.
Yeah. So he got to see almost everything. He was, that they came with. The jury didn't get to see like everything, which, was really upsetting. I think the video where he's basically, pulled over 2 days after Corey passes, and he's like acting like nothing happened. And he's just like, Corey's mom, she's a dirtbag.
Yeah, the lowest form of dirtbag or something.
And it's like 2 days after Corey passed, I'm sitting here planning his funeral and calling the cops and, just losing my mind. And he's in Tennessee getting pulled over, and he's on video just like acting like it was a Tuesday,
Of course.
That should have been shown in court. I think that was, odd. It is odd. And yeah.
I think they didn't show a lot in court, but you're telling us the things that really happened. And I want people to know. I took a couple notes from yesterday just so you can address. Can you address the 3 hospital visits?
Yes. So there was a few incidences, I think. So March 20th was the beginning of. So, the prosecutors explained it well. They said like it was just a chain of events and everything was just getting, whatever. So on March 20th, I took Corey to my father's in Pennsylvania. It was his birthday. It was around his birthday. So I wanted to celebrate with him. And from Pennsylvania to New Jersey, it's like from Barnegat where he lived, it was like an hour and a half. And then you add traffic. So I ended up dropping him off 2 hours late. But throughout the whole day, I was texting Chris, like, I'm going to be late. I'm sorry, whatever. We're with my dad on his birthday. So then I dropped Corey off. And Chris told me he was at the clubhouse working out. And then I come to find out he was never there. He walked up as I was pulling up. He went to the gym to do what he did to Corey. He wasn't there working out. Have you seen him in that clip? He wasn't working out.
No, he's chunky.
Yeah, he wasn't working out at that time. So that happened. I had no idea about it until I had no idea about the video until 3 months after he passed. I had no idea about there was even a video, but I knew that the incident happened because Corey told me.
Right.
So then there was like one more time where Corey and I were on Skype and I saw like a mark on him and I was like, I'm calling DCP&P. This is bad. It's getting very out of hand. Like, of course, all of it was bad, but it was just getting very, like, I could feel that it was getting bad
worse.
fast. Like something was going
Right.
to happen. He was getting too ballsy. I don't know another word. Like he was getting
the abuse was getting.
He didn't
Well, it's
care.
that
It was
it
often,
stacks
more
up.
often,
Yeah,
and
it
he was
starts to stack
extremely
up,
angry.
right?
Yeah,
And
it was getting worse
internally.
and worse and worse. So then,
But
I called
DCP, they sent
DCP.
you all around. Yeah,
Yeah,
they sent
so,
you all over.
so, the day April 1st, I picked up Corey from the police station because Chris didn't want me to come to his house, and I took Corey to the pediatrician. I made the appointment because DCPMP told me that his bruises need to be evaluated, and I agreed because they were horrible. Like he had this huge bruise over his heart, and that's a lot. Like you told me, like that's too close to his heart, and it's bad.
It was bad. It wasn't just a surface, bruise. It was a hard hit. You could tell. You just having 4 kids and just being,
It's not none of his bruises ever. This is what I don't get about DCPMP. They never, like, none of the bruises were just like, oh, on his knee, it's a scrape. It was like black eyes. It was busted lips.
Right.
It was bruised, handprint bruises all over his body. It wasn't, skin knees. That's understandable. But when you start getting black eyes, there's a problem. A 6-year-old.
When Corey would come here, it got to the point where we wouldn't want to ask him about anything because he didn't want to tell. So the way we would get to check his body for bruises, I'd say, oh, do you want to take a bubble bath or something? And I guess it was the Sunday before he passed, I believe it was. I had him in my bathroom and I put him in the tub, and I never reacted to the bruises because Corey would get upset. But inside, I'm like, oh my God. So I said to Bre, he's got one on his chest. It was huge. It was kind of raised up a little bit still. On his sides, he had what looked like to me that somebody grabbed you from the front, your thumbs in the front and all your other 4 fingers around his waist in the back. He was just covered in bruises. It was hard to look at. And I said to her, you got to do something. And after the bath, Corey would get in my bed and we would have snacks, watch movies, and we would talk. And he would say to me, this wasn't the first time, but he said, Gma, how come my daddy won't go to hell? And I said, he will one day. And
wow.
Don't get upset. It's fine.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, we're fine.
There's a lot of grieving process. Maybe you could take over a little bit, Bre.
Yeah, I don't know what she was gonna say because I don't know the conversation.
I'm good. So that night he said,
and this was not long before
5 days before he passed.
This is 5 days before he passed.
He said, does God see what's happening to me?
Man.
Yeah.
And I said, yes, he does. I said, but right now God has somebody else that needs him more. Because he said, well, why isn't he helping me?
And you don't know how to answer a kid.
And I just, I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. And I said, he will. He just has somebody else that needs his help a little more right now, but you'll be okay. And, I said, let me send a phone with you. You can hide it. And he said, Gma, I can't do it. He knew that if he got caught with a phone, if he yelled, if he screamed for help, he got beat more. And that's the weekend that Corey wrote on our sidewalk. He was writing with chalk and he wrote, I died on our sidewalk the Sunday before he passed away.
Yeah, Corey,
he knew.
Knew. Like I don't know what I believe in. I don't know how spiritual I am, but Corey knew that he was going to die
and
somehow.
He accepted it.
And he accepted it.
He was brave. He was strong.
Yeah.
He knew.
Yeah. He was his birthday was in less than a month. I was trying to plan his birthday and he wanted no parts in it. Usually he'd be like, I want this toy. He didn't want to plan his birthday party.
He knew.
And it was weird. And I'm like, and then the night I'll get to the hospitals because I know you asked me and like we're way off. But
no, do it. Say what you need.
Yeah, at the hospital the night before he died, he was asking me, what does God look like? What is God, what is heaven like? And I'm like, Corey, and I'm like, stressed out, I'm tired. I was like, I'm not sure, Corey, because I didn't know, like you wish you could go back and
Right.
change your answer, but I was like, I don't know. So yeah, I don't know how, but he knew that this was going to
Man.
happen to him. Whether it was Chris threatening him or Chris telling, I don't know.
Well,
But
maybe he was hurting inside too. I mean, he had to be hurting
yeah,
inside for a
maybe.
while, and also taking the beatings over and over. Some children, and they are closer to spirituality when they're children. Just
Yeah.
I believe that. My daughter tells me that all the time. She's 9 and she says that she hears like spirits around, and she tells me these weird things, and I'm like, I
Yeah,
believe kids are more susceptible to the spiritual world.
I agree.
So
Yeah. So the hospital, I was going from, so the pediatrician, I was sent there by DCPMP. It was his normal pediatrician. I made an appointment with her. That's what the caseworker told me to do. And then she was like, this is concerning. She did testify in the trial, Dr. Deacon. She said, this is concerning. Let's go get some blood tests and x-rays and, go over to Community Medical Center. It was down the street in Toms River. So I went there. And then they told me that, the caseworker from DCPMP called me and said, we don't have a child abuse expert that works there. We're not connected with this hospital. So we want you to go to Jersey Shore. So I gave him the phone to a doctor or nurse, and they were like, okay, we can transfer you over there because transport. I'm sorry. And I was like, no, I'm going to get my car and drive. Like, I don't want to do that, whatever. And it was just going to be quicker. I'm so late to dropping Corey off. It was late. So we headed over to Jersey Shore. We did everything. He got his test. He was fine. Everything was normal. But the basis of the story is that I didn't just go and, hospital. Like, I was being sent to different hospitals. So,
right.
It wasn't, if I would have stayed at Community if it was my choice, but they wanted me to go to Jersey Shore because there was an expert there apparently, but they didn't end up actually being there. So,
well, I just wanted to clear that up because you've been clean since February 2021, and people were saying, oh, she was going to different hospitals to get pills or whatever. And I'm like, no, that's not the story. So I wanted you to explain that you went because I'm just going to call it CPS because I get it wrong. Child Protective Services was sending her place to place to place. It wasn't because she just was for no reason, people.
Yeah, it's
And
amazing
then also,
things people come up with. You're reading these things. This is my life. And these people are like, this is what happened. I'm like, are you sure? Because I don't think so. And I'm Brianna. So
it pisses me off too when they say that. And then the other thing we were addressing was the bump where someone was like, oh, she was doing drugs while she. So
I wanted to address that. No. So in Mario, whatever his closing statement, he wanted to make me seem like I was, the worst person in the world. I was the biggest drug addict. So he made it seem like that I was sending messages and texts to my ex-boyfriend while Corey was in the hospital, which is not true. It was around 11 a.m. and Corey went to the hospital around 3. So I didn't, Chris didn't call me and say Corey's in the hospital or I'm taking him to the hospital. Then I said, oh, can I have some drugs? That wasn't it. And I made sure that he knew I didn't end up doing it that day. So no, I did not relapse that day.
Thank you.
But yeah. So
I just wanted to clear that up. But there was people that were saying that, even people that are on my team, I work with a lot of different kind of people and advocates and things. And I was like, no, that's not how it went down. So I just,
he
anything
had
else.
me read it in court and it was 11 a.m. It said it right there. But, he's allowed to, for some reason. I guess when you defend someone, you can say whatever you want. So he would just mix everything up. He would lie about it and he can say whatever he wants, So that's what he ended up doing. So yeah, that happened in the morning and he's saying it happened when Corey was in the hospital, and that's not true.
All right. That's the only thing. Anything else you have to say, yeah, go for it. Just wanted to clear that up.
I'd like to add something.
Please.
2018, the DUI where you picked him up.
I don't know.
One of Chris's arrests, he got a DUI in Flemington. He drove the car into a retention pond or something, and he was under the influence. He had hypodermic needles, I believe it was. That's how I read it in the police report.
That's one thing I want to mention. This guy is Brianna's this, Brianna's that. He used drugs more than I did. Just
What?
Yeah.
We didn't even hear any of that.
No, you're not allowed to. You can only
Right.
hear about my past. Chris's past had nothing to do with this trial. That's
But he, even though he's the one that took his life, so
right.
we didn't hear
He gets
any
this,
of that.
he gets this fair trial, and I feel like it was my trial at one point.
You were on trial.
I was on trial.
Yeah,
like I'm like,
how I felt.
Holy, yeah.
So anyway,
Well, they were trying to blame
arrested for being under the influence, and he calls Brianna. I guess because he felt like we lived near where he was or whatever. So I wake up the next morning, and again, this big asshole's at my house again. I can't get rid of him. And Corey,
sorry,
3 or 4 at this time, you know. And Chris comes downstairs and sits on the couch. So me being me, I said, well, let me go make breakfast. You know, when you have a guest, that's just how I am, you know. And he wasn't interacting with Corey. And that pisses me off, because anybody that comes to your house and you have a small child, I don't care if it's the mailman, the UPS guy, you talk to that child, you interact with them. He ignored him. After he left, I called the Greger household, David Greger.
This is when they found out, actually, I think.
This is, I think, when they actually found out. So I called, and David Greger answered the phone, and I said, hi, my name is Bre Micciolo. And I said, I don't know if you know. I said, but your son was here after his DUI. My daughter picked him up, and they have a child together. Do you know that? And, well, I don't understand. And Christopher, you know, that he's in college and he's this
a master's degree.
And, you know, I don't understand this. I said, well, I'm here to tell you, Corey is here. He exists. Your son was just here. I don't like how he was ignoring his child. And I just thought you should know. And do you know what, David Greger, that man that got on that stand, and some of you people felt sorry for him. People were feeling so bad for Grandfather of the Year. Do you know what he said to me? Why wasn't that kid aborted? And that's what that son of a bitch said to me.
All right.
And
yeah,
so
no, you
stand and cry. Bullshit.
Yeah, no, he didn't care for him.
No, he was full of shit, and he made his son the way he was. Oh, he's in college. He couldn't have got somebody pregnant and raped them at that.
Yeah.
He didn't do that. Yeah, does he even know that? I mean, it came out later, but I wonder if he even knows that. Or he probably just thinks you're lying anyway.
You wouldn't believe that.
I mean, they knew of the age gap too. And I remember one time I was talking to David, and he was saying like, you got, you know, even with the age gap. And so he definitely knew about it. And, you know, wouldn't a cop, retired state trooper, think like, maybe that's a big age gap for that age, you know?
I think it was all about looks for them. It's all about looks for them.
Oh yeah,
the house they live in, what they are.
That's why they had to like get rid of me, take Corey from me, because I wasn't up to par.
Yeah, you didn't fit the ideal of what they wanted for him.
Wow. Yep. Those people are scum. I know that. And I saw right through Grandpa and Grandma how she couldn't testify all of a sudden because she heard something. I've seen that play before. Went one too many times. She saved herself from being on the stand.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, she wasn't able to take the stand because Chris, they had a phone call right after there was like the hearing.
A profit hearing, they call it, without the jury present.
Right.
Yeah. So Chris called her after that and tried coaching her.
Yeah, I know it's a tactic though. That's a tactic people use, and it got out right. It's just a tactic. I'm not saying this time it was, but a lot of I've watched thousands of trials, and people they do that so they can get out of it. So maybe he didn't want her on the stand, and he went to coach her. How'd they find out? How'd they find out that he?
I believe they were listening to his phone calls because of the attempt on your life.
Oh yeah, so. I didn't even get to that. Yeah. So it was about a year ago. No, not like it was September 2023, I think it was. We had a court hearing in Ocean County for Chris, and then the prosecutors took me back to the office to talk to me, and I was like, okay. So they were like, just don't freak out. I want to tell you something. I'm like, okay. So Chris tried to get someone to kill you from jail. That's what they told me. That's how they said it?
Well, yeah, he had been conspiring to have Brianna killed.
Yeah, and then that's when they They do record all phone calls in prison, but I think they started
listening into his calls.
Yeah.
after
You're
that.
right, because sometimes they don't catch it right away. So that makes sense. He was in prison coaching his mom, and then okay,
Right.
that
Well,
makes sense.
somebody, whoever he was trying to get this person to do it, ratted him out.
I think they went and told
they
the cops.
told the police or the prosecutor's office, and that's
Thank
when
God.
they started listening.
And then
What a
there was
piece of
cop outside my
shit.
house for like 2 weeks, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Or
they had
like
to
a
have
week.
a cop outside of her house, and so of course we're paranoid because, and I'm asking the prosecutor and the lead detective, well, how did they say how they're going to do it? Like, what are we looking for? What should we be looking out for? Because you get paranoid,
Of course,
And
of
they said
course.
they didn't know, and so you're walking around and you're wondering, every person that walks by, is this person here for you?
And
get
even
paranoid.
now I'm scared because he just
Even
found
more so
out
now.
that he's guilty of aggravated manslaughter. That's not a few years, that's a long time.
Yeah,
It is. Both charges are a long time.
And I'm thinking, I'm like, what's stopping him from trying again?
Following through with
And
it.
I'm like, I've never seen someone so obsessed and hateful towards me, like someone. Like, he hates me so much, and I don't know what I've ever really done to him. I think it stems from that rejection back in 2013. I really do.
I believe so too. Can you hear me okay? Someone says I'm on mute, but
I hear you.
okay, good. Then they just need to turn their thing up. Yeah, I think it does stem from that. And you could have filed charges and you didn't. You could have ruined his life back then. Not that they would have believed you, because that happened so many times and his dad was a cop, but you could have filed the charge against him. And it seems like nothing. He was like the armored man. I don't understand why we didn't hear any of that he had needles in his car, doing drugs, DUIs, other marijuana business. How come we didn't get to hear he put a hit on you? We didn't hear any of that.
I know that because his dad is a state trooper. He got him out of a lot of trouble. Like, he never got convicted of any of these crimes. He has all those charges in Maryland, and they just all got dropped or disappeared. And then he got the DUIs there. You can't find that on his record because David Greger wiped everything clean.
That's crazy. Well, we didn't hear half of that either. That he tried to. They couldn't get it into court. They probably says, "Oh, it has nothing to do with the case, and we got to keep it in the all the legal jargon."
Exactly. It was very upsetting because, like I said, in court, when I was testifying, I couldn't say a lot. I couldn't tell them what Corey said to me. And, the doctor wasn't able to say, this is what Corey told me. They're like, well, you can't say that. And then the videos that I have, I think you might've played it in the beginning. That wasn't that's in Corey's own voice of him saying, he is choking me. He is doing this. And no one can hear that. It's hearsay. How is that hearsay?
Yeah, how is that? Yeah, they did call it hearsay, didn't they? That's not hearsay from somebody that's passed and was telling you.
Exactly.
Hearsay, my ass. Yeah, the legal system, it doesn't work. It doesn't work how it's supposed to. And we see that with you. I did an interview with a gentleman last night that couldn't keep composed. He has to see his daughter. She was from New Jersey, and there's an open casket for 3 days. And it's the first time he's seen her since she passed. They didn't even call him. And he was fighting for her like you were fighting for Corey. He almost couldn't contain himself in the video. I felt really bad. But he wanted to be heard. He didn't know where else to turn to.
Yeah, we didn't get to see Corey until his funeral either because, Chris wouldn't tell Brianna what hospital he went to. And by the time we found out, the detective said that we couldn't go there because Corey was now evidence. So we never got to see him until, a week later at his funeral. And then we get there and we find out that the Gregors got to have their own viewing before we got there. Even though they didn't pay for it or plan it, they got to have a private viewing.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think that's because the funeral director was an ex-cop.
Yeah, he was the ex-chief of police of the town where the funeral home was. So I'm most certain how that phone conversation went. And when I called him out on it, he said, oh, well, Becky, my hands were tied.
And we told him when I went and, had to go pick out his casket, I had to do all this stuff. I told him what happened to Corey. I said, this guy killed him. And at that point, Chris was in charge, but he knew. I told him. I was like, he didn't just die. He was killed. And by his dad. Do not let his dad in this funeral home. Do not let his dad see him. It's disgusting that he would even have the opportunity to see what he did to Corey. He has no right to that. And
they did.
Yeah. And of course, he didn't get arrested for months later, and then he tried to flee, right? Anyway, yeah, I want to make sure that was correct because they say a lot of different things,
Yeah, so he was charged with child endangerment in July. And then the medical examiner, had his death as undetermined. God knows why. I mean, whatever. But then they got Dr. Andrew, and he was able to determine it was a homicide. Thank God for him. He's my hero, as well as Dr. Feingold. She was amazing.
Yeah.
So, and I wanted to talk about one more thing, in public, about Dr. Bodden. I have.
Yes.
I'm like,
please.
I don't know. I feel like what happened was with him, because I don't think he's he doesn't know what he's doing. He obviously does.
He's a very smart man.
Yes. I think
he is.
Mr. Gallucci, Mr. Acquittal, not anymore, but I think he gave Dr. Bodden the evidence he wanted him to see.
That's exactly
to come up with that conclusion. Because if he saw it all, he would have said the same thing as everyone else. So he gave him this little snippet and was like, yeah, that's what it was. So I don't think he was lying. I don't think he did any. I think that's really what he thought with the evidence he had.
Right.
It's like you were listening to my video yesterday.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I said.
Oh, okay.
You probably weren't, but that's exactly, I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly what I said Dr. Bodden did. They only gave him snippets, because you could hear when they asked him, did you see that? No. Did you see that? They gave him exactly what they wanted him to narrow in on so that he could say, and then they paid him, $500 an hour and said, you're only allowed to have this many hours to look at this, and you have to determine it as this. So that's how it works. I don't think Dr. Bodden's a bad man, but I'm glad that you said that, because it was like me. It's like a deja vu.
Yeah. No, trust me. When it was happening, I was like, I hate this guy. What the hell is wrong with him? But then I was able to watch the trial, and I was like,
yeah.
I don't think he actually knew what was going on. He knows nothing about this. At one time, I didn't even think he knew Corey's name. I think they had to tell him. I don't think he was given enough information to come up with the correct cause and manner of death.
And that's what they do. I have a biomechanical engineer at a company I work with that goes and does testimony like that, and they only give them a small amount, and they tell them what they want the outcome to be, or they won't pay you.
Yeah.
And they're lawyers; they don't have to pay you.
Right.
So I'm glad that you saw that too. I don't think that it hurt either way. I don't think that it hurt the verdict, but the verdict I wanted was murder. But even you, as the mother, says that you don't think it was intent. So therefore, the jury saw it that way too. You know?
Yeah. I wish there was a way. I think, as a human being and an adult, when you're abusing a child, there is a chance that you're going to hurt them bad enough to do that. So that made me want him to get, first degree murder, because how did you know? Of course. You thought it was just going to be okay the rest of his life? You were just going to be able to do this and it wasn't going to affect him in any way, So, but like I said, I think he was upset. I think he was pissed off. I think he was so angry, but I don't think he meant to murder him or kill him.
Right. He needed a punching bag, and since he had to.
Yeah.
Right. If you don't mind
him for telling.
Well, yeah,
again, and I think it just went too far this time. I think Corey was already weakened from previous abuse, and
let me plug this in.
I think it went too far this time. And I had a conversation with someone yesterday. What if you start thinking these things, course. And you thought, well, I wonder what if Chris called an ambulance at 1:00 that afternoon, and was honest and said, you know what, guys, I lost my temper and I beat my son. Or he could have lied and said he fell and hit
Yes, he
himself
could
here
have.
or there. And maybe they would have done an ultrasound of his chest or abdomen. Maybe they could have seen this. Maybe they could have taken him to the OR. It could have been repaired. Maybe Corey could still be here. You know, you start thinking all these crazy things, and then everything goes back to Chris it was his control. He controlled it. He took him by car. He didn't call an ambulance. He didn't tell the truth about what happened to him. And ultimately, Corey passed away because of it.
If he did something to him and took him to the hospital right away, I don't think we'd be here right now.
No.
I think Chris would be in jail,
I
but
think
not
he
for murder.
would have gotten,
Right.
charged with, abuse, but Corey would still be here. Maybe he wouldn't have to see him anymore. And, we wouldn't be here, right? Like,
I don't want the laptop.
Or even,
is it plugged in?
I mean, even neglect or anything, it wouldn't have been as bad, and Corey would still be alive. When did you find out? I mean, I'm trying to understand this. I know Chris dropped off his son and then left, right? Did they call you guys right away?
You could go to that day.
So,
yeah, I'm sorry. I just have to ask.
So I dropped Corey off around 9 a.m. that day, and Chris called me around 3:30, and he told me that Corey was sick. He was lethargic, all that, and then I'm freaking out. I'm like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, send me his insurance card. Hangs up on me. And then I send him the insurance card, and then I woke my mom up or something because she was sleeping. I was like, Chris said he's taking Corey to the hospital. He's sick. I don't get it. He won't tell me where he is. I was texting him, what hospital, I'm meeting you there. No answer, nothing. So we started calling hospitals, and we actually contacted the one he passed away at, but they didn't give us.
What happened was we were both calling different hospitals. I don't know that area at all. So I'm like, I don't know what hospitals are there. And then I said, we're calling Barnegat Police.
Yeah.
We're going to tell them what's going on and send them to his house. We don't know where Corey is. We don't know what's happening. We need to know, and, whatever. So by this time, I started calling the same hospitals that we had already called, because I told Brianna, maybe by the time he registered and stuff, they just didn't have him in the system when we called. So the last hospital that I called that Corey actually passed away in, I called, and I'm on the phone, and the lady says to me, wait, what's his name? And I told her, and she's like, yes, hold on. And as I'm on hold, we find out what hospital Corey's in. The police department, 2 cops are knocking on my door. So Bre opens the door, and I heard what they were saying. I hung up the phone, and that's how we found out.
Yeah.
The cops came to you
like a half hour after. Yeah.
They came and told you in person, Bre?
Yes. And Chris, so after that happened, I haven't talked to Chris since that day. He never said, Corey passed away. He never told me. He never anything. Nothing.
Wow. I mean, were you... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to know. I mean, you knew how this had been going. You knew he was lethargic. Did you have a feeling that this might have had that, or were you just completely sideswiped? I mean, I would be, but I don't know. I don't know.
So when I dropped him off, I had, when you're saying when he called me and told me he was, I was panicking. I was running around like, what the hell happened? What could have happened so quick?
Right.
And I'm like, how did he get sick so quick? And I'm Googling. I'm like, what does this mean? What does that mean? Because he wasn't answering me. And then, I really didn't think, it didn't pop up into my head that Chris hurt him until I found out he passed. And then, I'm like, and then I'm like panicking. It was really bad. And then the detectives finally came to talk to us, like in the middle of the night. It was like 1 a.m. And I was like, I told them, I was like, Chris did this. And then I explained to him, like I am to you now, like what led up to this. And I was like, he's been doing this for a long time. I've been trying to get help and no one has helped. And here we are. So, and I could tell like from the beginning that the detectives, like they believed what I was saying. And they hated Chris just as much as us. So
Good.
they did.
We all
And
hate him.
It was hard because, then the medical examiner was saying undetermined, and we're like, you can't, you need to tell me how this happened. You can't just leave me here like not knowing what happened. And then Chris is off doing whatever he wants, wherever he wants. It's disgusting, and they eventually got Dr. Andrew, who said that. And then that's when he, got arrested. But yeah.
I remember, we would all make reports to DCP&P. Brianna would call, I would call, her sister would
We'd
call.
all call and make a report the same day, just so they would be like.
I kept saying,
it took a while.
The social workers that had been coming to the house so much, I said, please, you have to do something. He's going to kill my grandson. I said, don't let Corey be another Gabriel Fernandez. I had just seen that movie, that documentary. And I said, please don't let this happen to my grandson. And they just thought I was a crazy grandmother.
Oh yeah.
They hated me.
These people acted like we were nuts.
We were just
like,
crazy
I was
evil.
just pulling this out of my ass. Like they were like, they wanted nothing to do with us.
Yep. And here we are.
I mean, that Gabriel Fernandez thing broke my heart. It was hard for me to get through that.
Never watched that. I couldn't even before.
Don't watch it. Don't
rough.
watch it.
Very bad.
Yeah. Hannah says, Bre, Rebecca, I'm glad you're telling Corey's story. I can't wait for Chris to be sentenced. We can't either. We're praying for 40 years. He will get his soon, at least better. Whatever that means at the end, at least he better. But at least he better get the maximum. And we pray for that too. We don't want, he's a monster. He will hurt other people. His family, his dad's a monster. I don't care what anybody says. His dad, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And they treated you guys terrible.
He is a disgusting, horrible, his whole family, his sister, his brothers. I had a little glimmer of hope for his sister because she seemed like the most normal one. And she actually, from what I gathered and what Corey told me, cared about Corey.
The sister?
Yes.
His sister. Did he have brothers?
He had two brothers, Danny and I don't know, David or something.
Right.
David's a highly decorated Air Force something or
other. Yeah, of course. Yeah. They're all great.
He's not around, but
But I did have some hope for his sister, but once I saw that she was choosing, to stand by that, Chris is innocent, Corey, wasn't murdered, that's when I was like, yeah, okay. I have no respect for them.
Well, I'm glad that they came back and looked a second time. I know it took them a while to get to that conclusion, but I'd rather just have Corey here. Obviously, you guys as well. I mean, I don't know how many stories we have to hear over and over and over for that to happen or for them to listen. The Good Old Boys Club isn't going away either.
I know. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I mean, is there anything else that you want to talk about? Anything else? I'm looking at my notes. Just anything that you want to. Oh, you also told me that teachers had reported it. There'd been other reports.
Yeah. So, it wasn't just us being crazy and we're making things up. It was his teacher, Miss Peace. She testified too. She was also seeing these bruises. She was seeing, she thought Corey was being abused, and then she made her own report. So it's, why wasn't a teacher, the mandated reporter, like that meant nothing to them either. And I really do not know why CPS didn't take this seriously, but I want to get to the bottom of it, but I don't get it. It'll never make sense.
DCP&P is so screwed up. We're reporting the abuse that's happening in Barnegat. And this guy from DCP&P from Ocean County knocks on our door during one of our reports and wants to look in my refrigerator and my cabinets and see where Corey's room is here. And I said, you got it wrong, pal. It happened down there. He doesn't live here with me. He's not here. We reported this. What are you coming and checking on me for? You're at the wrong house. Like, that's how screwed up they are. He's being abused somewhere else, and they're going to come and look in my refrigerator. I don't get
CPS is CPS is a joke, and I hate to say that. I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, we're understaffed," or "They're understaffed." I don't give a shit
No,
about
this is
that
just they're
understaffed.
being stupid at this point.
It,
It's
yeah,
not being understaffed.
understaffed or not, I'm one person and I can do the job of those 10 people. And if someone tells me that this child's being abused, I'm gonna go there, and there. I can't sleep at night as it is when I hear about these cases. These people are just a joke. They take a report and then they go home for the day. They really
Yeah.
don't care. They're not doing their job. I don't care understaffed. I don't want to hear that excuse. I'm tired of it. So anyone that says that, I don't want to hear it. Yeah, it's just now Chris and the Gregor family attended the funeral, but they had their own separate funeral.
Without our
We
knowledge,
didn't know
yeah.
they were having one.
So like
Okay.
we had our viewing and we went to the cemetery for like his burial, and we would leave and then they would come. So we had no idea these people were having a funeral for Corey behind our backs after we left.
Right.
Well, the only way we found out, the gentleman who is, I guess he's called a grave digger. I don't know the person that digs the graves at the cemetery.
Right.
Happens to be related to my brother-in-law. And he said something to them a few days after, like, "Oh, why did that other family wait until Becky and Bre and everybody left to come to the cemetery?" And my sister's like, "Who? What are you talking about?" And we thought it was kind of weird when we were at the cemetery, because typically at this particular funeral home, and I don't know if it's the same everywhere, but they lower the coffin into the ground and you put the flowers on top, whatever, and you're allowed to stand there as they're doing this. And the funeral director was rushing me. He just about picked me up and put me in my car.
Yeah.
And I would have stayed up there all day. I wasn't ready to leave,
That's what happened.
Oh, and he just kept shoving me to my car. "Go ahead, go now, And I thought, well, gee, this is weird. And a young couple came walking up as we were standing around, and, they were doing the service, the graveside. And I looked at this girl and I was like, "Who are you?" Like, I didn't know her. And she's like, and she kind of stuttered and just kind of walked away. And I realized she was somebody there for their burial, their funeral, not
right.
She was just had gotten there early and didn't realize it. And
now the Gregors didn't show up to the funeral that you had.
No.
Right. Okay.
They've never called. They've never written a letter. They've done nothing. As a matter of fact, we had to put a camera on Corey's grave because Chris was stealing every picture that we put up there of Bre and Corey together, every toy, every item that was left there. He was stealing them. And we had to put a camera on his grave.
And I want to say too about the fish and the eggs and the stones and what else did I throw?
Chicken feet.
Chicken feet, whatever. I wish I did worse. Are you kidding me? I threw eggs and fish at your house and oh God, whatever. Your son.
That wasn't the night Corey died. That was 4 months later.
That was months after. It wasn't. Yes, I did wake up that day and say, "Hey, I want to throw fish at Mr. Gregor's house." I did say that. Because you know what?
You should have thrown a bomb.
I was taking my anger out on something, and it was throwing fish.
It was frustrating. You were getting no answers. If something happens if the tables were turned, I would be reaching out to them like, "Oh my God, what happened? What can I do?" They didn't do any of that. And
those people are trash. This world is so messed up that we see somebody that has a degree and $1 million house as good people. And they look at us like we're trash, but really it's the opposite. Those people are complete garbage and trash. They're soulless people that serve the devil, not God or a higher power, none of that. All they see is, lights and sparkles, and those are the good people. That's a complete opposite. And, we're working to change that state to state. I'm working with a lot of people. We can only change one law at a time. Bre, I hope you get more justice. I'm hearing all these rumors that you may be, and we're not going to talk about that, but doing something more about what happened. And you should.
Yeah.
Again, we won't talk about that. And I'm behind you 100%. I hope you get everything that you deserve. The only thing I would want for you is to have Corey back. But since you can't,
Yeah.
I hope that you get everything that you deserve. And I would have thrown a bomb at his house if it was me. That's the wrong person. I'm the
I
wrong.
would have if I could have gotten one. So
Well, I'm glad you're not in jail because you have a beautiful daughter, and I know your boyfriend supports you, and you got your beautiful mom there. A lot of us don't. I have a mom that's supportive, but you have a beautiful, supportive mom, and you don't want to be where Chris is. You're not that kind of person.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
They were only able to pick out throwing fish and a couple. Oh, she used drugs a couple times,
Yeah,
but they didn't talk about any of his stuff. So that
yeah,
tells me how biased the whole time that it was.
yeah.
They're taking your posters down.
No,
Is Kirsten asked, and if you're up to answering a couple questions, I'll only keep them respectful.
yeah,
Did
yeah. That's fine.
okay? Did Grandpa, the parents, really not watch the video, the treadmill video? Is that true?
I want to answer this. So I think they did, but he lied in court. But in closing arguments, when the prosecutors, did frame by frame kind of the video, we got, they sat there just like they didn't care. They were so
Of
stone
course,
faced. They didn't get upset. So yeah, they ended up watching it, whether they actually did or through the stills, they watched it. And we got upset, and she had to leave the courtroom because she, couldn't contain herself. And someone actually overheard Mr. Greger or Mrs. Greger say, "Oh, how pathetic." So
wow. Of course
yeah,
they did.
yeah.
Their
So
mom, their
it's pathetic
animal.
for us to be upset over that video, and I think they watched it. Yeah,
I do too. I do too. People kept saying that, and I'm like, how could they not have watched it? They just want to act like holier than thou. But
yeah,
those are the people that, I mean, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual, and
yeah,
I believe the people that the best people that there are the ones that aren't shining in the light that everyone's looking at. And three things. What are the three things that Chris was? He had
Oh,
a
master's
degree.
degree. My dad's a cop, and I'm trying to think of the other thing.
He's a teacher.
And he's a teacher. Yeah, that
Oh,
was
yeah. There you
the
go.
whole- yeah.
So watch out for those kind of folks, people. There's a question here. What was the reason you couldn't attend all the court hearing? Or was there a reason you couldn't attend all the court hearing? I'm assuming that's to you, Bree.
To the trial.
You were
Oh yeah, I was sequestered. So they didn't know
Wow.
if they were gonna have to like call me back in to testify, just to if Chris testified and he said something about me and it was untrue, they wanted me to go back in there and say no, that's not what happened, kind of. So I couldn't be in there and listen to everyone else's testimony.
Right. Yeah, because then it could mess it up or you could see
Right.
something different. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I
That
add
makes sense.
something real quick?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to talk about this custody thing. I got a little annoyed hearing that. Why did he have custody? He didn't have full custody. They shared custody.
Okay.
When Chris was living in Monroe Township and we were in Jamesburg, everyone agreed that Corey would go to school in Monroe Township. It was a better school district for Corey. And in order for him to be able to go to school in Monroe, he had to live with Chris. What was it, a half a day more than he stayed with Bre? So
Right.
Chris got him a half a day more, so he was able to go to school there. There's no other reason why he had more custody. It's not because she was laying out in the gutter somewhere. It was just for that reason and that reason only. They had 50-50 custody.
Thank you for clarifying that because I didn't even know. I for some reason thought they gave him custody and her visitation. The way they made it sound, for some reason they made the treadmill murder, which is what they called it, the trial. They
Oh,
made
well,
him
with the media, I had to correct them because for a while they were saying, treadmill murder and saying the treadmill killed him. And I'm like, it didn't. So
yeah, that's what they were calling it, but they made him look good and it was like you were on trial. And so thank you for clarifying that issue. It happens to people that have money, are able to control the media, and then it also women. Unfortunately, we're still not right there with the guys yet. I
No.
know. I fought my whole life to do the job I do and be where I am just because I'm a female. So I
Yeah.
understand.
And, Chris had lost custody at one point as well. I don't know if anybody heard that.
No, we
He
didn't.
also lost custody for being arrested for possession of drugs. And, but that really didn't come out in court, I guess, right?
I don't think
I
it
don't
did.
think that was brought up, but so he
No.
wasn't perfect.
Let's see.
There's a lot of things that he wasn't. And Lauren Martin, we answered why wasn't he convicted of murder? If you want to say it one more time, it was
Yeah, I don't think there was enough proof that he did this with any intent, which I agree with the jury. Like I said, I would like him to go to jail the rest of his life and get the biggest charge there is, but I don't think he intentionally killed Corey.
okay. Yeah, we answered that earlier. You guys might have came in, and also somebody asked earlier, and I didn't even know about that. So, did you ever find out why Corey's jeans and underwear were found soiled in the trash?
I'm just guessing
Speculating.
here. Speculating.
That's okay.
I guess. When you're passing away and your body's shutting down, these things happen, and I believe an expert even kind of backed that up. Corey's body was already shutting down. He was obviously an hour away from death when he got to the hospital, so his body was he was shutting down, and this is what happens when you're passing away.
And I think he did know. I mean, if the lacerations were that way, and kids, it's very scary. I have a daughter that's 9 again, and a 24 and a 9-year-old. And when kids are becoming lethargic, that's a problem at that age.
And it's scary,
it's scary because it's a big problem. There's no reason for a kid that age to become, when they're a baby and they become lethargic, it's a little bit like, okay, maybe they have it's still scary, but there's a lot more reasons when they're that age. I could imagine.
And then you see this video of him bringing him into the hospital, strolling along, it's
no sense of urgency.
And
if we were walking Corey in the hospital like that, I'd be like, oh my God, somebody get over here, help me. He did none of that.
No, of course not.
My daughter had a fever from COVID. I was rushing to the hospital. I was screaming, I was being dramatic in that case. But with I would have knocked the doors down. It would have been a lot.
There's no dramatic,
like any sensible person would have done.
No.
But he didn't, and we know why he didn't.
Yeah, we do. And do you get to make an impact statement during sentencing at all? Did you get to make a statement at all, or are you going to make an impact statement?
It will be. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad you get to. Did he look at you at all? Nobody's asking. I'm asking. Did Chris look at you during the trial, or did he?
When I was testifying, obviously, he tried shaking his head no, to things I was saying, and
yep, we saw that.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions? Otherwise, you guys can say anything you want, and then we'll wrap up. We've been on here for a while.
Yeah.
I don't want any. We've pretty much answered everything that I just want to make sure you said everything you want to say. Crystal says, Bre, I know this was mentioned in court about you spending the night at Christopher Greger's house. Why was this even mentioned? Because it made your relationship with Christopher wasn't bad.
Okay. So at towards the end, when Chris had Corey, I was so afraid that Chris was gonna hurt him. So there were times where I went to Chris's with Corey, so I could be there with Corey and make sure this wasn't happening. And then when I called DCPMP, a few weeks before he passed, they went to Chris's house and he found out I called, and then that's when he cut me off and was like, you can't come here with Corey anymore. And that's when the abuse got to the point of the treadmill, and then the ultimately killing him. So I think it was just a chain of events, me calling DCPMP, and then him saying I can't come there anymore, I can't protect Corey anymore, and then that happened.
So that makes sense. I would do the exact same thing. I don't know how it makes anybody look bad. I would stay anywhere with my daughter. My son's old enough now, but I'd still go spend the night.
Yeah.
So that makes
sense. I wanted to go in his room and smother him with a pillow, because I did. I hated Chris.
We talked about it.
I'm not.
I'm sure.
No.
Okay, but
what if?
I was just. I did what I had to do to protect Corey. Some people might not understand it, and I don't care. That's it.
Right.
No, I would have done the same thing.
I'm just saying, I know people don't understand it. But at the time, I did what I had to do, and I thought it was the right thing.
Well, I agree with you. I'm saying I would
Okay.
have camped out there if I had to, just like you did. I don't care.
Yeah.
When my daughter was little, I was at the ER like once a week. They knew my name because she'd fall down, and I'm like, I gotta take her to the emergency room.
Exactly.
Like my wife and I have kids, but we had to like go the hard way, right? Because we don't just roll over. And so I was at the ER every freaking week. They're giving her teddy bears, and they're like, "Oh, she's fine, Miss Scott, Mrs. Scott."
Welcome back.
So yeah, and then I'd come back. She fell out of her high chair. What do I do? And they would just like give her a balloon and send me away. So I understand. I understand how you feel, and I respect you for telling your truth. And a lot of the things are just complete misconceptions. Somebody asked earlier, and you said something about the needles in his car. Is that something that we think he was taking steroids? No, I don't know if you know.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think he was.
I can't say what they were used for. It was just.
Well, if you look at him,
but he looks
because
like
that causes rage, and then it makes you look more masculine too.
Yeah, he looks like I can't confirm it because I've never seen him like do it.
Yeah, but the needles say a big thing. It's either going to be heroin or it's going to be steroids, more than likely. Some people shoot up other things, but
yeah, I think he was.
I think so too.
I think so too. When you said something about needles in his car, I was like, oh, okay, that makes the most amount of sense. Yeah. Well, we all think he's a monster. We're rooting for you in the aftermath, whatever it is that you do. We can't wait to see you with your impact statement at sentencing. I hope the judge really does give him the maximum sentence. I don't see why not.
Yeah.
I don't see why.
Yeah. So I feel like he's had to be fair and impartial this whole time, but I think, and I'm hoping, he just digs into him at the sentencing and just tells him about himself, because I would love to see that.
Well, the judge gets to see more than the jury gets to see, so he's going to know more, and he has to keep that poker face. He has to keep it, or otherwise he's going to be able to I was going to say a mistrial, but he'll be able to have another appeal. And so he has to remain that. But I can't, not just I want him to rip it to him. I just want him to say, look here, I'm giving you the maximum sentence that I possibly could. So we're going to hope so, because if he does get, some people are saying 40 years, but I saw that it's a 10 to 20 on one and 20 to 30 on the other, which would be 50 maximum. Right. So if that's the case, he won't be out until he's like 80, which then he won't be able to have kids, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what we pray for.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right. Anybody else have anything to say? Mom, Rebecca, you have anything else, Bre? Otherwise, we'll wrap this up. Everybody shows their love and support. It was nice that everyone was respectful today. Thank you all. We got that all out in the beginning.
Yeah, I just want to say, I appreciate this because I don't know if you mentioned it before we came on, but like we're, all these, bigger news stations want to do interviews, and I told them I won't do a 3-minute interview because it's disrespectful to Corey. His whole story should be told, and I'm not going to try to make it into a 3-minute story. So I appreciate you letting us do this.
No, I appreciate you, your mom getting in touch back with us, and then you coming to me. I don't think that's right that you get 5 minutes either. And then all of these rumors still going around. I think that's completely unfair. It happens to too many, especially mothers and women. We get a bad name, and nobody knows the truth about the man that's a teacher and so decorated, and look at how handsome in his family. That has to be taken away from him. We needed that to be taken away from him. And I'm glad you came here today to let us know the truth.
Yeah.
I told Bre that you would let her tell her story. When I came on a couple nights ago and saw you talking about it, I told her she had to get on your show because you were going to let her tell her story. And there's another lady, and I don't know if I'm allowed to mention her name on here, but there's another lady who I know will also give you the same opportunity. And I told Bre that she had to get in touch with either one of you because I knew that.
Yeah, you can mention. I'm friends with a lot of creators and a lot of big creators, and I don't
Her name is,
censor anybody.
what is it? Toddy One Skip. Do you know her?
I do know her and I do talk to her, and
Yeah.
we're family, so we're family, so to speak. So yes.
Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah.
she was another one that I
Yeah.
love how she does these things, and I know that I knew it when
Yeah,
I
we
saw your
talk.
show and hers. I knew that you would let Bre tell the story. So,
Absolutely. I hope that you're able to work with her. She does smaller segments, but she doesn't want drama. She just wants the truth.
Yeah.
And yeah, I collaborate with all creators, so we
Yeah.
can say everybody's name. We try to be peaceful and loving to everybody around here.
right.
Yeah.
And I just want to let you know, Tales from the Pen. His
Yeah.
name's Freddie, and I went to grade school with him. He's
Oh wow, okay.
he's
I
a
s-
nice guy. He was
Yeah,
a
I
little
played that.
scrawny kid back in school, but you know, I like what he does too.
And he gave us the opportunity early on.
Yeah,
to,
very early on.
You know.
Yeah.
He did. I played that interview here, and everybody was like, "You gotta get Bre on here. You gotta get Bre on here so she could tell you after the trial." And we tried our best, and we bombarded your mom's email. Trust me, the mods. we
Oh yeah,
we
trust
wanted
me.
to.
Throughout the trial, I was like, I kept saying, you know, to the prosecutors, I'm like, "Are you sure I can't do an interview? Are you sure? Because I want to say this." And they're like, "Just wait.
We
Just
we
wait."
wanted to tell the story, you know,
Yeah,
because there was
yeah.
so much that wasn't being told, and we just weren't allowed to say anything.
Yeah.
Right. Well, now you are. Now the next phase comes, and we're gonna cover the sentencing, and let's pray for the best. And I also pray for you, Bre, that everything that you get that you deserve comes to you in all good ways. I know whatever the next steps are for you, we'll see that soon. I'm sure it's all gonna make the news. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So good luck to you, Rebecca. Thank you, Bre. Thank you. And
Thank you.
anytime you guys want to come back or say anything, just shoot me an email or a text, and you can say it here.
Okay. All right.
Great.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
All right. You ladies have a wonderful after evening now.
Evening
And
for
I'll
us,
talk to
yeah.
my it's 2:30 here. I'm in California time. So yeah, all that stuff's coming, people. Everybody's saying everything. They love you, and they're talking about
Yeah, we
the
appreciate
civil.
everyone too. I wanted to say that everyone that's,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
supportive, like we appreciate it so much because I know there's people, you know, out there that don't agree with some things, but they don't know everything. But I'm happy I was able to tell everyone today. So I appreciate it and everyone.
Yeah, thank you. We love you both, and hopefully we'll hear from you soon. All good things.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so
Maybe.
much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Take care. All right, people. That was an amazing side of Bree's story. Wow. I mean, we heard it from her. I think we did as many questions as we could. We covered everything that we could. She told you everything that she could tell you, and dispelled all the rumors that she could. So I don't think there was much left to be said about all of the rumors, all of the things that happened. I mean, we heard what how he was born, how he was conceived, everything. All of that was a bunch of lies. Oh yeah, one day he just dropped it up. They just dropped a bomb on him and said, "Hey, you have a kid, pay us." None of that was true, folks. None of that was true. All of the other stuff, oh, she did a bump, that wasn't true. She was clean since February 2021. None of those things. The only thing that was true was the fish and throwing it at the house. And I would have probably thrown a bomb at that guy's house if I was her. No, he was not out on bond. You guys will have to rewatch it. So it's my Sunday. I have to go back to work tomorrow. I wasn't supposed to work at all this weekend. And yeah, thank you, Mary. It was a great interview. You're welcome. I hope you guys go back and really watch this and see all the lies that were told. We just heard the truth. Okay. Everything. I talked to Bre already. We went over all this. She has no reason to lie. Her son Corey's not coming back. The trial's over. Next thing that's happening is sentencing. Yeah, I would have thrown a bomb. Next thing that's happening is sentencing, folks. She lost her son. Trial's over. Nothing to lose. Sentencing's coming, and she's a straightforward woman, unlike that devil, Christopher Greger, and that devil of a family. Okay? So I want you all to know I love each and every single one of you. We're almost at 2 hours. I know you guys want to keep going. Take care. Take care, Princess Mitch. Thank you for being you. I appreciate you. Eileen, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate you. Thank you. That kept putting people in place because of the lies. Yep, she did put everybody in their place, and she let you know. Thank you for today's live. Outstanding. Thank you all so much. We love you. Go back, watch the interview, and look at all the lies that were told in court, and look at how the justice system doesn't work. We need to get that fixed, folks, and the only way we could do it is one case at a time. And the power of people. All right, folks, power of people, one case at a time. And on that note, I'm out of here.
Guilty of crime.
I want to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed my content, please share this video, like, and subscribe. You can also follow me over at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, or Gmail. If you'd like to donate to my channel, you can use Cash App or Venmo or PayPal. Thank you very much in advance. Guilty of crime.
Are you guilty?